What is good, Nio family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only Nio stock and what you should be looking after for the future. I'm also going to break down why on earth Nio might get a bit of a bounce tomorrow, why we might see the market actually push up a bit, and why the market may have actually bounced from the downtrend it was on over the last couple of days. Now, before I break anything down about Nio, what Nio just put for their deliveries, why this is actually bullish news for Nio, and why this could actually help Nio's share price temporarily, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Neo community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks plus free level 2 data, and any of those 7 free stocks could be a free Neo share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 4 weeks. Make sure you check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So anyways, when it comes to the market, we're actually seeing a bit of a rally on SPY. We're in power hour at the time recording this, and it looks like the market may have actually bounced right here. Now, one of the things I mentioned to you guys was I was seeing a bounce in the markets because of the divergences that were forming, right? We had a bullish divergence developing on the RSI, but I wasn't sure where the market would end up like dropping to, right? I'm saying this because if you look at SPY, notice how with the chart right here, we formed a lower low right here, right? So right here we had a low, the low actually got a lot lower right here. And then if you look at the RSI during this time frame was at almost 35, 34 point something. Then the RSI right around here was at about 38. 38, and the lowest it actually got to was like 36. So the RSI formed a higher low. The chart made a lower low, the RSI made a higher low, forming a divergence, and that would likely mark a nice uptrend or a big change in the price direction, right? That's why we did see the bullish divergence end up developing, and that's why the market is continuing to pump. However, I didn't really know exactly where this would be, and we still need some confirmation if 392 is the temporary bottom because of the fact that down here we do have a big demand zone around this 390 to 388 level, and there is a chance we could come down here and then bounce, but it's looking a little bit less likely. The market's looking pretty strong right now. We do have a lot of Fed speakers tomorrow, but the odds are favoring the market might try to hold these levels by tomorrow's close. And the reason for that is because of the fact that when you look at the charts right now, you could actually see that max pain for tomorrow is at 398. There are actually over 789,000 puts out of the money at the time I'm recording this, and maybe higher, but there are almost a million puts out there, right? And the market makers do not want to pay these out. On top of that, there are over 500,000 calls out of the money, so the market makers also won't have to pay those out. So the market makers are coming out on top, and they're likely incentivized to hold the markets up for tomorrow. That's part of why the market is pumping. It's not the only reason, but that's part of it. There was also a Fed speaker known as Bostic. He said some hawkish things about how the Fed's going to continue raising rates, but then he also said that he's in the 25 basis point cap, and that actually caused the market to rally a bit. The market loved it, and that's actually propping the stocks up. Now, as far as Nio goes, for some reason my data is not updating. I'm not sure what happened right here, but it doesn't really matter too much because I know that Fridays tend to be pretty decent days for Nio. And right now, Nio has a volume of over 65 million, so it's above average volume, and we're getting some very good buying pressure. Now, I also want to note that right here, the short volume percentage is also decreasing, showing that Nio has been getting a little bit more buying pressure. And that's after this figure that just came out. So what's the bullish news for Nio? We don't have an official report on this just yet. I'm still waiting for that to come out. Nio usually puts this on their Twitter page for better graphics. But I just want to note that even though it's not out yet, we do have the numbers that came out. And the numbers are telling us that even though Nio's earnings was not very good for Q4, even though they saw their losses increase, we do have some good news finally, right? And it's about time. The good news is Nio delivered over 12,157 vehicles in February alone. That's up 43% from January. So very big increase. They actually delivered over 5,000 SUVs and now 7,000 sedans. So the majority of the deliveries are the sedans, and they're starting to do a lot better with that model. So very awesome news. This is their monthly deliveries. Let me see if I can put this in a new tab so it's easier to see. Right here, the yellow starts off back in January, and then right here for February, over 12,000. You can see this yellow bar is actually higher than almost everything from all of last year except for November and December, and we do know that demand goes crazy during those times. This is telling me that this is actually some very good news because Nio is higher. They had better deliveries, higher amounts of deliveries than almost every single month of 2022, except for just June, November, and December. So Nio did a lot better during that time frame, and I do believe Nio has more projected growth to come. So I want to see Nio break this record again for March. March is obviously a longer month, and I want to see them get above 14,000. I want to see something like that for March. If they do that, that's going to be bullish news. But once again, I mean, after 8,000 deliveries from January, they're giving us some better numbers. That's even better for us, and I really hope Nio continues with the growth. So when Nio tends to give us good deliveries like this actually helps out with the share price, and that's part of why Nio just bounced. Even SPY is just continuing to bounce. It might even start squeezing because of all the shorts that were out there. Nio is pushing up too. What I want to notice to everyone is I mentioned to you guys some important levels on Nio. I told you Nio would likely test 8.5 to 8.3, and we'd likely bounce off 8.3, but I wasn't sure if Nio would continue to hold. I was just pretty shocked after that earnings report, and instead we have something that's saving us, and that's the deliveries and also the overall market. So that's some good news, guys. The deliveries that Nio came up with were good. Also, the overall market is starting to squeeze. That's also helping Nio. So with that said, this is all telling me that Nio is likely going to continue to uptrend, and now we're stuck in this very important demand zone that Nio was in from the past. So when Nio was trading before, Nio was basically above the whole like $9 level. And when it was above it, it had a tendency of actually trading around this range. And this is where the demand zone was. This demand zone was around 9.13 to about 9. And anytime Nio would touch it, bounce, bounce, comes down, bounce, right? And now what's happening is Nio is inside of it, and it's going to act as resistance. 9.13 is going to be some resistance. I think tomorrow, maybe even today, because we do have a few minutes left, but for sure by tomorrow, I think Nio is most likely going to break above this and start trading a little sideways above this. Let me see. This is around this like low to mid $9 level. And I believe there's a possible the bullish case would be a inverse head and shoulders developing here. This could be like a left shoulder. This could be like a head, and we could be forming a right shoulder here, just trading sideways and then eventually getting a breakout sometime next week to fill this gap, taking Nio all the way up to this like $10 range. That could happen if the market does continue to squeeze, and I believe there is potential for the market to try to do that. Now, like I told you guys, there were signs of the VIX forming, the VIX potentially coming down to the 19s. I mentioned that to you guys as well, that the market could get a bounce. I just wasn't sure exactly when. I thought maybe by next week, maybe later on. It's happening a lot sooner than I thought, and it looks like the market's going to continue going. So once again, as long as we close above like 398 tomorrow, we're going to be in a good place, and this could actually confirm this as an accumulation. That tells me that Nio, once again, once we get back into the zone, we're likely going to try to push for 9.5, get a nice bounce tomorrow, trade a little sideways, and eventually, whether it's tomorrow, maybe going into next week, Nio might fill this gap and come all the way up to about 9.8 and then all the way up to the 10s. Now, as investors, we have to be nonpartisan, we have to be unbiased, and we also have to remember there's a bearish possibility just in case bad news comes out, if something unexpected happens. Even though it's unlikely, don't forget to watch 9, 8.76, 8.3, and then $8. Those are like the support zones. But once again, I don't really see Nio testing those. I think Nio is more likely to break above 9.13. And then once it's above that, we're going to trade a little sideways for some time between 9.5 to 9.13 and possibly get a nice break to fill this gap around the high nines and maybe get to $10 very soon. Why is this happening? Because of the overall market starting to squeeze. That's the first factor. And also deliveries that just came out. We got some good delivery numbers, right? And when Nio does this historically, this tends to actually help the share price temporarily. When we have strong deliveries numbers like these, and this is actually a good growth month over month, 40% up. So congratulations, Nio. Let's keep up these deliveries. I want to see even higher than 12,000 a month. I want to see 14, 15, 16,000 every single month from this point on, at least 14,000 at the very least. There are going to be macroeconomic factors and external factors that could affect that are out of Nio's control. But if we assume that everything just remains as is for the remainder of the year, I want to see at least 14,000 every month for the remainder of the year and maybe even get a 20,000 month near the end of this year. I would love to see it. NIO is projected to almost double their total yearly annual deliveries. They're projected to do that for 2023 relative to 2022. I'd love to see it. If we continue with the growth, I'm still very bullish. So, anyways, thank you all so much for listening. I want the best for everyone. Remain calm, cool, and collected. NIO to the moon because the long term future is still very bright. And peace out.